Imagine Christmas night. Snow is falling softly on the rooftops, strings of warm golden lights trembling in the cold wind, the faint jingling of sleigh bells echoing somewhere in children's imagination. All over the world, people tell kids about a kind old man with a round belly and a booming laugh, carrying a bright red sack full of gifts. But in some mountain regions of Europe, people whisper about something else. That behind Santa Claus, in the long shadow that stretches across the snow, there is a creature walking beside him. It does not laugh, it growls. It does not carry presents, it carries chains. They call it Krampus. And the most frightening question is this: why, in the middle of a festival of light and love, do humans stubbornly keep a monster of darkness walking side by side with Santa on a freezing winter night? If you grew up in the United States or modern Western Europe, Christmas in your memory might be a sparkling pine tree, red-wrapped boxes, cheerful music in supermarkets, and Coca-Cola commercials with a jolly Santa smiling brightly. That is Christmas that has been softened, sweetened, industrialized into a season of shopping and positive emotions. But if you go deep into the small villages in the Alps, in Austria, Germany, Slovenia, or northern Italy, you will touch another layer of Europe's memory. There, Christmas is not only light. It is a thin border between light and darkness, between salvation and punishment. And right on that fragile border, people created two parallel figures: Saint Nicholas, who brings rewards, and Krampus, who brings punishment. These two images cannot be separated, like two sides of the same coin, like two halves of the human being. To understand who Krampus is, we have to go back a long way to before Santa Claus appeared in popular culture. Since pre-Christian times, the Alpine regions already had strange winter rituals. People believed that on dark, cold nights, wild spirits roamed the sky, that hunting parties of ancient gods howled in the wind. Mask festivals, wearing animal skins, ringing bells, shouting and stomping, had existed for a very long time as a way for humans to face their fear of winter, of darkness, of death. When Christianity arrived, the church could not completely erase these old images. Instead, they blended them. Saint Nicholas, the forerunner of Santa Claus, was brought in, carrying the light. The wild, horned, half-human, half-beast spirits were pushed into a wicked name: Krampus. The name Krampus is believed to come from an old German word related to shriveling, to something bent and clawing, like a monstrous hand grabbing your ankle under the bed. In folk imagination, he never looks human. Picture a tall creature covered in dark brown or black fur, limbs thin but strong, legs ending in goat hooves that leave prints in the snow that are unlike human footprints. On his head are two long, curved horns, like mountain goats, arcing backwards, casting a shadow across the wooden roofs. His face is a nightmare fusion of demon and beast, eyes glowing red like embers deep in a furnace, a hooked nose, a wide mouth with an impossibly long red tongue hanging out as if he wants to taste children's fear. He carries chains, big bells, bundles of birch rods, and a wicker basket or sack strapped to his back. But Krampus is not just an image. He is a role in a living ritual. Traditionally, in many places, the night of December 5th is Krampusnacht, the night of Krampus, right before St. Nicholas Day on December 6th. On that night, the men of the village, often the young men, put on fur, wear horned demon masks, strap heavy bells to their backs, and carry rods and chains. They move in groups through the village, banging on doors, chasing after children, making a great racket. Bells ring, heavy footsteps thump, growls echo down the dark alleys. This is not only about scaring kids. It is how the community calls up its own fears, turns them into a performance, into something that can be touched, mocked, and then overcome. In folk stories, Saint Nicholas and Krampus often travel together. One is reward, the other is punishment. On that special night, Saint Nicholas, looking more like a bishop than the modern Red Santa, knocks on every door, asking the children if they have been good over the past year. Good children receive candy, fruit, and sweet bread. Krampus, walking alongside him, rattles his chains and waves his rod if he hears about bad behavior. Disobedience, laziness, insolence toward parents. In harsher versions, he might put naughty children into the basket on his back, carry them away, drown them in a river, or drag them to hell. For a child's mind, that image is more than enough to make a long, snowy, dark winter feel solemn. Try to imagine the story through the eyes of a child living in a mountain village a few hundred years ago. Night falls quickly, snow covers the paths, wind whistles through gaps in the wooden walls. In the small room, firelight flickers in the hearth, dancing on the tense faces of the family waiting. The children sit close together on a bench, hands clasped tight. All year, their parents have reminded them of this day. If you are good, Saint Nicholas will come. If you are bad, Krampus will find you. Suddenly, outside, heavy bells ring, different from the church bells. Mixed in that sound are chains dragging over stone, heavy footsteps, low growls. A tall figure's shadow flashes across the window. The door booms under a strong knock. Someone outside speaks, deep and resonant, like the voice of winter itself. In that moment, Krampus is no longer a character in a tale. He is fear standing right outside your door. When the door opens, the child sees two silhouettes. Saint Nicholas, in a long robe and bishop's mitre, with white beard and staff, eyes kind but stern. Beside him is a dark, horned, furred body, a red tongue hanging out, chains clinking. The room shrinks into the circle of candlelight. Saint Nicholas asks, "Have you obeyed your parents this year? Have you helped them? Have you studied diligently?" While the child stammers out an answer, Krampus steps closer, chains scraping on the wooden floor, red tongue lolling, fiery eyes like they are looking straight into the child's soul. Beneath that fear is a very concrete, very down-to-earth lesson. Actions have consequences. Goodness brings reward. Selfishness and rebellion draw darkness. From a modern perspective, many people may feel that scaring kids like this is too harsh. Children today are often protected from frightening stories, from monsters that come to take them away. But if we look deeper, Krampus is how older generations used myth to solve a very real problem. How to teach children about boundaries and responsibility in a dangerous world. Winter in the Alps was not a pretty Christmas postcard. It was a time when cold could kill, a season when one small mistake by a child playing in the snow, near frozen rivers or an open fire, could lead to disaster. Krampus was a personification of bad things will happen if you do not listen, wrapped in a mask and a festival so that the whole community could take part. On a deeper level, Krampus is the shadow of Christmas itself. When a culture celebrates light, salvation, goodness, and love, the darkness becomes more visible too. The more people talk about rewards for the virtuous, the more they feel the need for a symbol of the price of selfishness and cruelty. Krampus is the part of ourselves we do not want to see. Anger, jealousy, brutality, the thoughts we deny. That is why he never stands alone. He always walks behind a saintly figure. He does not live in some remote, strange forest. He knocks on doors in the middle of the festival. It is a reminder that darkness is not far away. It is just behind us, behind our smiles, behind the tree, behind the cheerful songs. In the modern era, when Christmas has become a global shopping season, Krampus has also been reborn, but in a different way. You can see him on old postcards, festival posters, in horror movies set at Christmas, in Krampuslauf parades, that tourists still flock to see in Austria and Germany every year. There, Krampus costumes grow more and more elaborate, masks masterfully carved, fur-thick, horns towering. Torchlight and flares cast eerie light on demonic faces, creating scenes that are both ghostly and breathtakingly beautiful. At the same time, Krampus is commercialized. He appears on t-shirts, mugs, as a cool symbol for those who want to push back against the saccharine sweetness of Red Santa. Interestingly, even though Krampus imagery is extreme and violent, many young people in Europe find something liberating in it. They say the Krampuslauf is where they can scream, roar, act like beasts and demons to bleed off the stress of modern life. Amid streets glowing with Christmas lights, shopping malls full of merry songs, the Krampus procession thundering past is a reminder that people are not just polite smiles. We still carry something primal, wild, instinctive inside. Acknowledging that, instead of denying it, can bring balance. Just as Japanese culture has demon festivals and other cultures have masquerades and carnivals, Krampus is a pressure valve for the darkness in the soul. If we read Krampus as a symbol, every detail on his body becomes a code. The goat horns are not only for fear. The goat, in many traditions, is linked to lust, appetite, instinct. Placing goat horns on a figure in the Christmas season is like admitting that even as we talk about holiness, raw desires still exist. The long red tongue, always stuck out, is the image of cruel words, slander, things that cannot be taken back once spoken. The chains around Krampus can be seen as Christianity's attempt to bind the wild spirits of the pre-Christian world, to place them under the control of the saint. The basket on his back, where he stuffs bad children, is a very literal image of the fear of being cast out, cut off from the community and the safe home. In contrast, the Santa we know today has been washed clean. From the stern St. Nicholas, then 19th century illustrations of a Santa that still had some uncanny elements, to the chubby, jolly, bright red Santa whose rosy cheeks and friendly smile were spread worldwide through beverage, ads, and corporate branding in the 20th century. As that image changed, his shadow also receded from popular culture. In the United States, children rarely hear about Krampus. They are told that if they are good, they get presents, and if they are bad, they get nothing. The worst punishment is simply the absence of joy. Krampus, with rods and chains, is seen as too cruel. But that is precisely why the European Krampus story is important. It reminds us that winter festivals did not begin as purely pleasant events. They were negotiations between humans and fear. Compared to other cultures, Krampus is not alone. Many traditions have a pair of figures in their myths, one of light and one of shadow. In East Asia, there are stories of guardian gods paired with date demons. In Vietnam, children have long been scared with tales of An Khai, river ghosts, monsters that will grab them if they misbehave. In Latin America, there is La Llorona, the weeping woman by the river who takes children away. All these beings, though they look different, play the same role, embodying taboo and danger so that adults can teach communal rules to the next generation. Krampus is thus very European and also very universal. He is how humanity tells children, the world is not only gifts, there is always a price. But beyond parenting and scaring kids, Krampus is a mirror for how modern society faces itself. In an era where we polish our online image to perfection clean, cute, likable, facing our uglier parts becomes harder than ever. We hide anger behind laughing emojis, hide fear behind glamorous travel photos, hide loneliness behind busy-sounding posts. In a way, modern Christmas with its dazzling lights, gifts, and non-stop cheerful music is a glittering cloak thrown over deep worries, anxieties, and emptiness in winter. Krampus, when he reappears in movies, comics, and memes, feels like a sarcastic reminder. Darkness does not vanish just because you hang more lights. Many cultural analysts think the return of figures like Krampus in the 21st century is tied to growing insecurity. In a world facing climate change, economic instability, political polarization, war, and mental health crises, ancient stories about winter monsters suddenly feel eerily appropriate. We sense the world is getting colder, darker, less predictable. And like mountain villagers centuries ago, we need a shape to pour our abstract fears into. Krampus becomes a convenient symbol. You can jokingly say, "This year, Krampus is definitely grading me." You can watch a horror movie about him and feel your fear locked safely behind the screen, easier to face than real life. However, if we look closely, the Krampus story does not end in despair. Remember, he never walks alone. He always travels with Saint Nicholas. That means that even in the dark, there is light beside it. Punishment does not exist to crush people, but to remind them that change is possible. A child frightened by Krampus this year, if better behaved next year, can still receive gifts. In festivals today, even when Krampus figures stomp loudly through the streets, hitting chains against the ground, shouting, tapping spectators on the legs, in the end, it is all a game with agreed rules. They take off their masks and go back to being ordinary people, sharing drinks after the parade. Darkness is invited in, looked at directly, and then escorted out. That is a surprisingly healthy way to live with things that scare us. Perhaps the most important question then is not, is Krampus real? But who is Krampus in your own life? For one person, it might be the memory of a heavy mistake they cannot forgive themselves for. For another, it might be the fear of abandonment, failure, or being seen as they truly are. For an entire society, Krampus could be the issues everyone knows but no one wants to name. Injustice, violence, indifference. As long as we push these things into the dark, they remain terrifying. But when we dare to call them by name, to sketch their shape, to turn them into a character in our story, we reclaim some power over them. So when you look at the image of Santa on the Christmas tree, with his kind smile and gentle eyes, remember that somewhere in history, behind him, there was a tall shadow with curved horns, a red tongue, and chains rattling over the snow. The story, Krampus, the darkness behind Santa Claus, is not just a spooky winter legend. It is a reminder that no light exists without first acknowledging darkness. No festival is truly complete if we only speak of joy and refuse to look at fear. And no human being is truly mature if they have only ever received gifts, but never once dared to face the monster standing behind the door, knocking at their heart and whispering, "This year, how have you lived?"